There's a myth that Black children don't like to read. But Fefe Handy of Atlanta is on a mission to debunk that myth. She is doing it. She's the executive director of the literacy nonprofit Pageturners Make Great Learners. And it provides books to children in poverty-stricken, low-income areas. In fact, it provided over 10,000 books to deserving children in schools so far during the pandemic alone. I love this woman. Fefe Handy joins us now. I love to say it. You're doing God's work. You really are. You call yourself Fefe. Well, I call you a friend. I adore you. But you call yourself a voice for the voiceless. You help kids find their love of reading. And I'm just so happy to have you this morning. But tell us where this effort began for you.
This effort was born out of selfish reasons. My daughter struggled to read. Having left corporate America, I realized she was struggling. And of course, as a mother, you want to do everything you possibly can do to ensure that your students are not just academically successful, but they're successful in life. So I needed to get her to fall in love with reading. And my greatest accomplishment is that I did that. But looking beyond my four walls of my home, my front yard, and my community, I knew that there were children who shared the same struggles as my daughter, but did not have advocates at home for reasons beyond their control. Not that reading and education wasn't important. It was that food and a roof over their heads was more important. It didn't mean that it wasn't important to their parents and to their caretakers. And so I decided that I needed to advocate for not only my children, but for others as well. And now tens of thousands, I'm so proud to say.
Yeah. Well, it's taken off, and you've had politicians, business people, the highest level invest in you and this program. And, you know, I've been to these schools with you, which was my honor and pleasure. But one thing that I remember has stuck out with me, and it's something that you said years ago. Some of these children have never owned a book, Fefe. They've never owned a book until you give them their first book and they can share it with a brother or sister. That's remarkable. And can you talk more about that? Because this is a harsh reality that so many people don't even realize.
Absolutely, Sharon. You would think in 2022 that every child has a book at home. You look at the shelves with flowing with books in your home and you think every child has a book, but that's not true. Literacy statistics show that upwards of 60% of families, low-income families, do not have age-appropriate books in the home. A startling fact, you know, we're working with partners like the Atlanta Public Schools and the Urban League of Greater Atlanta, where we have hundreds of thousands of functioning illiterates around the city of Atlanta, not just children, but this is a family crisis. So we're all working together to build a city that reads and to ensure that students have books at home. And that was never more important, Sharon, than during the pandemic when children were not in classrooms and they were learning virtually. And imagine the learning loss that happened with students being out of the classroom environment for months at a time and not having books at home. So I'm so glad that Pageturners was able to step in and fill that gap and stand at schools that were serving as food distribution centers to ensure that as they came in to get breakfast and lunch, but they also had an opportunity to pick up a book, an age-appropriate books to read at home.
I love that you and Pageturners do what you do without blame. As you said, these are good parents who love their children the same as parents who have, you know, some means, and they want to provide for their children. So that's important. And like you, my daughter, she hit her stride with reading, but we had to get there. How important is it to teach this love, or at least give them the opportunity to love reading? Because it allows for an escape, fantasy. We know what at least the early books are about before they move on to history and other things. But that escape is important too, isn't it?
Absolutely. Modeling reading at home, Ava seeing you read is important because if they
Hmm.
don't see it, then they can't be it themselves. And in addition to that, give them books that they want to read, allow them to choose.
Hmm.
We've
Oh,
always
wow.
been very intentional about the work that we do and giving them books where they can see themselves on the cover, a beautiful black girl or a beautiful brown boy on the cover, and that text in line with experiences that they share in their own homes and in their own neighborhoods. So giving them something that they want to read matters.
Yeah. I want to know what we can do, all of us watching, myself. What can we do to support this effort? Because the reading support that you're giving kids, it really does position them for success and endless possibilities, yes?
Absolutely. You think that reading is a life skill, and if our students
Hmm.
aren't reading, they're not comprehending. We talk about standardized tests, we talk about truancy and high school dropout rates. The work gets harder, the words get harder. So building that foundation early where we can ensure that our students are reading grade level and above and mastery level makes all the difference in the world in terms of knowing how to fill out a job application, knowing how to create a resume, knowing how to read and follow instructions. Reading encompasses every part of our lives. And there's no career that you can think of that at some point you will not have to read. It's synonymous with poverty, with joblessness, with crime, all of that. They're building jails based on third and fourth grade standardized test scores. That's just important and critical, the issue is. So, by
Hmm.
supporting organizations, grassroots organizations like Pageturners Make Great Learners, supporting with funding, with books to ensure that our students have quality books at home makes all the difference in the world. Helps us further our mission to show that reading
Yeah.
is not just a life skill, but a pleasurable activity.
Well, I think you're just a ball of energy. It seems like when I see you, you're just always on the go. You're always on the go, Fefe. And now you have this great, podcast called Pass the Book to Fefe. You interview wonderful authors. You highlight their stories, their work. So it's a resource for parents, educators, but also for those who are searching for their book. So talk about what really is sometimes a lack of representation in classroom libraries, school media centers.
Absolutely, absolutely. I find myself, members of our organizations, being a resource for parents, even for educators and students, that a lot of the authors that we have the opportunity and to be blessed with hosting, a lot of our schools and educators and students are unaware of them. So we're educating the educator. We're bringing authors, not just regular authors, but New York Times award-winning
Hmm.
authors like Jason Reynolds and Sharon Draper, Nick Stone, and Angie Thomas into the schools where we serve. And not only that, providing them with a book. So having the opportunity to extend our platform of making parents aware of authors, Black and Brown authors that are out there, because those books are not always publicly facing. Sharon, when you walk into your Barnes and
Hmm.
Noble, I mean, even if you're blessed to
Yeah,
walk in, sometimes you got to know what you're looking for. But I'm so happy that
sure.
Page Turners can extend its platform to provide a resource for parents and educators to make them aware of authors that are out there and books that students would be excited to read.
Well, let me tell you something. First of all, Barnes& and Nobles better have it up front, given the month we're in, Fefe. But I just love you. It made me smile because when you talk about books, you just light up. You love books, and I can tell. I can tell. And the fact that you're sharing that joy with all of us and so many young minds, we just love you. I hope you'll come back again and again and highlight your work. And please, always let us know what we can do. Fefe Handy, thanks so much for starting your day with us, and keep doing the great work you do in Atlanta and beyond. We appreciate you.